Howdy guys, today I'm going to be talking about different styles of hooks. Alright, so with hooks, I'm going to show you 3 different styles of hooks that I use, and these are very common styles of hooks for bass fishing. It's going to be about bass fishing. So I'm going to show you 3 different styles, so here we go. So the first kind is going to be a round bend worm hook, and this is just your regular round bend worm hook, okay? And what this is for worms, as it says, a worm hook. And you can use other soft plastics, but it's for soft plastics. Now this hook in particular, you can get in any thickness of wire. You can get thin ones that are really thin wire, which means it's going to bend a lot easier. So if we're throwing lighter gear, you can get the medium wire, which is what this is. This is just a regular regular wire. And then you can get the super line or the extra thick wire, and that would be for bigger presentations. So this style of hook is going to be best suited for thinner baits. So baits like this right here, that's a little Berkley Havoc craw fatty, I believe. And it's really thin craw bait. Let me grab a little worm. Little worm here. That's going to be a really thin bait. So it's going to be good for that. So I'm going to show you how to rig up. So here's a little, actually use the worm. Here's a little worm. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to stick this, and I stick it in until about the bend. So there's like a little bend right here, right? And when you hit that bend part, that's when I stop. And then come out with the hook, just like so. You're going to slide the hook down, and then you're going to hit this part, right? This little bendy part right here. You're going to hit this, and you're going to pull, and then twist that hook around, and it's going to pull that head right in. Now if you're going to do it like this, you're going to want to tie on your line before you do this. Otherwise your eye is going to be buried in your soft plastic. But I like to do that. I like to bury the eye in the soft plastic. So your knot is going to be protected. It's going to be inside there, and nothing's going to happen to it. Okay, so then with this hook here, you can see where the hook is laying, right? Now where it's laying is where you're going to stick it in. It's going to look like that, but be inside of the worm. That's what you want it to look like, inside of the worm. So I'm going to take right where it's sitting right here, and I'm going to pull back and push it right up into the worm. So there you go. Now it's sitting right up into the worm. You look at your worm and it's nice and straight, perfectly straight. When it falls in the water column, it's not going to have any kinks. It's not going to fall funky. It's going to be nice and straight. You have a nice straight presentation. Okay, and so that's what this hook is good for thinner bait. So you see the gap here. It's wide enough to where when the fish bite and you set the hook, there's plenty of hook coming through. Okay, there's plenty of hook here to come through and get the fish. Okay, what you don't want to do is take a thick bait and use this type of hook. Because what's going to happen if you have a really thick bait, I'll rig this up the same way, but I'll just do it quick. So, you're going to get that rigged up, okay? And then when the fish bites down, as you saw the other one had a ton of hook, when they bite down, there's not going to be nearly as much hook. If you look at that, there's not nearly as much hook right there as there was with the worm, right? The worm, it was a really thin bait, and you had a lot of hook poking through. This, you're not having very much hook poking through, so your hookup ratio is not going to be as good because of that, because there's not as much hook to drive into the fish. So, on thicker baits is not when you want to use the regular worm hook. On like Senkos and little thinner baits, it works fine. Now, that's for the regular worm hook. Now let's go to the EWG, the extra wide gap, okay? Now this, as you can see, the difference in this one is it's got this big wide gap, right? It's got the big huge bend in it, and it's a lot further gap between the shank and the actual hook point, right? It's a lot further. And so what that's good for is that's when you're going to use your thicker bait, okay? So basically, I'm going to start off rigging this the same way with the EWG. Go in until it hits the bend. And you're going to come out. Pull down to that twist part. Then you're going to twist it and pull it in. Now with this bait, the difference is that I do with it is because if you look at it, look at this hook. It's actually, and you put your finger across, it's actually flat. The other one is pointed up. So it's pointed up like this. This is actually very flat. So how I'm going to rig this one is, like I said, same thing at the beginning, right? Go through, come to here, twist it. Okay, so when I get to this part, now you're going to see where that hook is laying right now. And you're going to take that and stab it completely. You're going to go down that far and stab it completely through the bait. Okay, so as you can see, instead of just hooking it in the middle like the other one we just buried in the middle of the bait, this one you're going straight through. And then what you're going to do is slide it on up, and you're going to take your bait and just kind of pull it over and push it over that point. So now the hook point is stuck into the plastic. You can still see the hook, but the point is actually stuck in the plastic. Now this is less weedless than the other way, in my eyes, the way that I fish it. But now you have, look at that gap. Now you have much bigger gap. So with the thicker bait, when they bite it, there's a much bigger hook there. Much more hook sticking through to jack them in the mouth, okay? So that is where I'm going to use an EWG, when you got a thicker bait, okay? Now, the last style of hook is going to be a flipping hook, okay? Or a straight shank. As you can see, it's very different from the others. It doesn't have all those crazy bends. It's just a straight down, and you got your hook, right? Straight shank hook, it basically looks like, you know, any other hook. Like, here's like a salmon hook right there, right? Very similar. Just a straight J hook, right? Now, where you want to do these is these are generally a lot thicker, and they're a lot stronger. They're not going to bend out, right? If we take this regular EWG, like here, and we start bending it, it flexes. It's got flex in it, okay? And that could be not so good, because if you're going to be fishing in heavy cover, braided line, heavy rod setting the hook, that hook can flex and bend and cause you to miss fish and fish to be able to throw it. This hook here, when I pull on it, it does not flex. You know, a lot of these hooks, you could hook up to like a truck and you could tow a truck with it. Literally, they're not going to flex on you. Depending on the brand, some brands are not as strong, but if you have a good brand, like the Trocar, I think that's what this is actually, they're not going to bend out. So this, as you can see, it's different, right? So with this, when you're going to rig it up, you're going to go in, same thing, you're going to go in and toe the bend. Then you're going to come out, pull it down until you hit the plastic part. You see, now I hit the plastic part, right? And I'm going to pull and twist and come out. Oops, came out too far. So then it looks like this. Basically the same thing, right? You're twisting it and pulling it out, right? Now with that hook, do you see what that hook wants to do? It wants to go straight up, right? So we're going to take this, and we're going to take the lowest part of the hook, which would be right here, and that's where we're going to put the point. So the lowest part of the hook is right here. We're going to take the point and go right there and go through. Okay, so now that hook is buried in the middle of that bait, and this is good for thick. Usually I like a thicker bait with this, but that hook now is buried in the middle of that bait, not going anywhere. It's super weedless. You can flip it into heavy cover. The hook's not going to bend out. So now when the fish bites it and you slam them with the hook set, a ton of hook to come through, and that's a ton of hook that comes through, penetrates, and goes into the fish's mouth. And because this heavy hook with braided line, you're not going to have any issue. That's going to go right through and jab right into the fish's mouth. You're not going to have any issue with the fish not getting hooked. It's one of my favorite hooks to use. for flipping around baits like this in heavy cover, for creature baits and stuff. And the only thing that you need to know is that with this hook, especially if you're using a bigger weight, like a 1/2 ounce or bigger weight in front of it, right? I got a 1/2 ounce weight in front of it or bigger, you're going to want to snell this. Now, I'm not going to do a snell, not going to teach you how to do a snell knot right here, but I'm going to make a flipping video pretty soon and show you how to rig up the flipping rig and how to tie it and then how to fish it. And in that video, I teach you how to snell it. But what it does is it basically makes this hook kick out. So when your weight slides down, when the fish pull on it and your weight hits against the hook, it's going to kick out up into the fish's mouth. But we'll get to that in a different video. But that's kind of it on the hooks. Those are 3 different style of hooks and how I rig them. Those are the 3 most common hooks that I fish. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'm not like, hopefully the lighting's okay. It looks like super bright right now, but thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hope you can use some of these tips and some of those, you learned some things about rigging up hooks, and see you guys in the next video.